What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am back with yet another album review, and today I am talking about the latest offering from Las Vegas country, western, metal, whatever the hell it is you want to call them, band Spiritworld, HELLDORADO. This also came out on March 21st, also on Century Media Records, and this is the band's third studio full-length. This is my first time checking this band out. I heard a lot of buzz about them with their last album, Death Western. Never got around to checking it out, but I probably will since I listened to the new one. So yeah, for those who don't know, this is a Las Vegas-based, they started off as more of like a country western punk kind of hybrid band, and then I guess on Death Western they evolved into like thrash metal, hardcore, and a little bit of death metal. And from what I've heard, this album's kind of like an amalgamation of both of their albums and everything they did early on, kind of wrapped up into one. Which, I would say that's pretty accurate, starting things off with Abilene Grime. You get these like organ sections, and then it leads into like western guitars and boogie rhythms going all over the map. And also some gruff hardcore vocals. Like the vocals style for the most part on this album is hardcore driven, which totally fits what's going on here. But the song itself, it starts getting a little bit more rockabilly kind of feeling. Then all of a sudden you get this like big, like almost Slayer dive bomb, as well as a pretty cool solo that follows. And then Chug and Groove. And Chug and Groove comes in quite often on this album. And then you get into No Vacancy in Heaven. This one's almost for the most part a straight up thrash metal song. Like the riffs, the chug, the groove, the gallops almost reminds me of bands like Exodus a little bit. And then of course big shredding solos like show you how crazy I can play. But then you get into Western Stars and the Apocalypse, and this is one of only a couple of songs where you do get some death metal. Like there, it starts off with this death metal groove and chug before it gets back into like thrash metal gallops with some hardcore tendencies kind of thrown in here and there. And it's an overall pretty fun song. It just sounds like you're in the Old West and you're hearing, you know, all this chaotic music while a bar fight is happening. And then the next two tracks, Bird Song of Death and Prayer Lips, both of these songs are pretty much like country western songs, but they were fun. They were kind of cool, even though I'm not really a country or a western fan really at all. But I will say between the two, I preferred Prayer Lips because you get like fiddles and saxophone, which I always like a good saxophone here and there in my metal. But then we get into probably my favorite track on the album, Waiting on the Reaper. This song, I think, goes for everything this album has to offer, minus the western country bits. Starts off with this awesome death metal triplet chug that reminds me a lot of Blood Red Throne. Then you get into these like hardcore drums with dive bombs that leads back into thrash metal. And then chug and groove once more, and then some punky D beats show up to kind of add a little bit of extra zing, a little extra pizzazz to everything going on, as well as a pretty cool breakdown. Oblivion, which features guest vocals from John Krieger from Black Braid, and an awesome guitar solo from Zach Blair, formerly of Gwar, now Rise Against, starts off with like hardcore groove and chunky riffs. And then what I really liked was the grisly bass tone that shows up, as well as the gang vocals coming in on top of all of it, and I think it just adds to the song. And then suddenly it turns into like classic speed metal with these riffs, solos, the drum beats, and then the drums build to a breakdown. And I will say, John, when his vocals come in, he sounds feral. And then into a track like Cleansing, which is pretty much like an interlude track, but it's still not bad. Eerie ambience, drums come in, and then you get some clean melodies, then some chugging riffs towards the end, but then you get into Stigmata Scars, which features an awesome solo from Frederick Leclerc from Creator. he delivers on the solo. Starts off with these big Slayer dive bombs, then into shred-tastic guitars. But the song itself starts off with a heavy riff and groove before it gets back to being thrash. And it's one of the other most intense songs you have on the album. Even tremolo riffs come in towards the end. And then the closer, Annihilism, back to the country western thing, like it's all acoustic but with some clean guitars and clean vocals, and it just boogies along. And while again not a country or a western fan, it wasn't terrible. Production wise, it's gritty. The mix is pretty well balanced. I really like the fun energy that this album has, all about like old western stuff but with like this hybrid of country western, death metal, thrash metal, and hardcore. It's an interesting mix, to say the very least. As far as my complaints go, I guess from what I heard, death western, they were moving away from the country western stuff from their early days, whereas this feels like a middle ground album between their first two albums. And the country songs just wasn't my bag. I'm just not a country fan at all. But I'm not saying they're bad for what they are, but like literally all of the other songs buried the shit out of Bird Song of Death, Prayer Lips, and Annihilism. So overall, this was still a fun album. I will give this a 3.5. This was still a fun, enjoyable listen. I definitely need to listen to Death Western, their previous album, to kind of get the full picture of the band. But yeah, this was still fun stuff. But of course, those are just my opinions. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, thank you for watching. Keep your horns high and your dreams wet.